This is the Ezra podcast. Everybody talking some Vergil Ortiz today. We're going to be talking some Dalton Smith today. We're going to be talking some Mickey Conlon, Blair the Flair upset, right? Blair the Flair getting a big win in his career. But let's talk about Vergil Ortiz first. Vergil Ortiz versus Mckinson in a fight that was postponed. It was supposed to happen before actually once of the event that was supposed to have the main event of Ortiz versus Mckinson. And Mckinson is he's more of a boxer. He's more a defensive fighter. He's more fighting at range, making you chase him touch you at the end of his punch, end of a jab, and being defensive, using his legs to get away. As I said though, when I made my prediction for this fight, it's just like Vergil Ortiz is just physically more gifted than him. And even though that Mckinson's like the guy that uses his legs and uses his defensive skills to get away, Vergil Ortiz has the better legs than him. Vergil Ortiz has better legs than Mckinson. He's more athletic legs. He's more skilled with them. He's more skilled in everything he does. Now, defensively, does he have flaws? Because he comes in and he goes into your range and he's looking to create offense and he doesn't really respect any of his opponents. Yes, he has that when he has no respect for anyone. Now, we haven't really seen him fight someone that he has true respect for. He feels like he can get anyone out of there that he's been in the ring with. So I am curious to see what it's going to look like when he fights a guy like Terrence Crawford or a guy like Boots or a guy like Earl Spence. I don't think it looks like the way these fights look like. I think he's doing exactly what we want fighters to do. Go in there, get these guys out of there when they don't belong in there with you. That's exactly what he's doing. Get the highlight here in the right video. Okay. That's exactly what he's doing. He's going in there and getting the guy out of there when we feel like the guy shouldn't be in there with them, right? That's exactly what you want. You want the impressive performance, get the stoppage, look dominant. That's what he does. But somehow, like I'm saying, if you want to be critical, you can be critical. If you want to be critical of Vergil Ortiz, you could be critical, right? You can say, oh, he gets caught too much. Oh, he's actually not good defensively. He just goes in and he's one-dimensional. This dude is not one-dimensional, okay? We cannot say this man is one-dimensional. He has the skills to box. I guarantee, right, just because of how skilled his legs are, right, how skilled his upper body movement is, it's a subtle things that he does. This man can box. He can fight. I guarantee he can fight going backwards. You have not seen the complete package of Vergil Ortiz yet. And when he went in there, he felt what Mckinson had. He felt what danger he was in that fight. And he realized, I'm just going to go get him. And I understand that maybe he doesn't set his stuff up sometimes. And sometimes he just explodes with big shots. And maybe he'll even miss big. Remember, Mckinson's not a bad fighter. That's the thing is that, see, when you get these European guys and maybe you've never seen them before, right? Or you're not familiar with them or you didn't watch him come up, you assume, oh, well, he must not be a good fighter. Right? I don't know. He's just one of those European guys. And okay, you could say that. But I think this guy's a competent fighter, right? And when you're a competent fighter, you're going to be able to pull off some things, right? You're going to be able to have your little moments, right, where you look like you're doing some stuff because you're a competent fighter. And Mckinson, at the skill level that he is, right, crafty as he is, as experienced as he is, he was able to survive, and he was also just very durable because he took big shots. It wasn't like, oh, Vergil Ortiz having a hard time getting to him. No, he was getting to him. Just the guy's durable. So if you're hitting the guy and he's surviving it, it's not really on Vergil Ortiz. That's like, oh, that's credit to the man's chin, credit to his durability. No, if he hits him with one of those big shots early and stops him, right, then we're not no complaints. But because that punch didn't stop him, because Mckinson showed that his chin was, credible, and you're not going to say, oh, Ortiz doesn't have power because we've already seen it. We've already seen Ortiz's power. We have plenty of examples of his power. All his fights end in stoppage. So it's credit to Mckinson's chin. Also, Mckinson, didn't exactly fight. I think as people expected him to fight, is moving around the ring, making Ortiz chase him. Kind of look to choose to hold his ground. If you're a boxer, that's always an option, right? There's always a few mindsets you have to have, right, when you're a boxer, especially at this level. Especially here in the States and in Texas fighting Ortiz. He's going to have to hold his ground because if he just moves around the whole fight, right, very hard to win a decision doing that, especially how aggressive Ortiz is. Also, you want to kind of stop Ortiz's momentum. I want to make him respect you. You've seen Floyd do this with Pacquiao. You've seen Floyd's actually do this a couple times. But a lot of times when a guy's, when a boxer fights like a really high level guy, you'll see them actually sit in there more, right, and hold their ground because they're claiming their territory, right? They're saying like, you're not going to just run in on me. I'm not going to just let you do what you want to do in this fight. You're going to have to walk through some stuff. Now, Mckinson was outgunned, but he won for it. He won for the win in this fight. He wasn't going there just like, I'm gonna do my thing, survive, and see what happens. No, he won for the win. It wasn't to be, right? He just was really outgunned by Ortiz. I don't think Mckinson's a bad fighter. I don't think he's an elite level fighter. No, not. Don't get me wrong, but I think just Ortiz is that damn good, and I think people want to be critical of Ortiz for some reason. They wanted to not put him at the level of Boots, Spence, or Crawford. Let me tell you, he's there. He's no walk in the park for any man at 147 pounds. He just isn't. And you have to look at all the things he can do and what he's good at and what he's a high level at. And that's he has an elite offense and he has elite legs. That's just the truth of it. And he's better defensively than you want to give him credit for it. Now, just because he doesn't respect these guys, he's gonna get caught. But that's because he doesn't respect these guys. If you're go watch sparring, like I think sparring kind of breaks down a lot of the mentalities people have. You watch a high level guy versus a guy that he knows he's levels above, right? He might get caught a few times, right? Because he's willing to take a lot of chances because he knows he's not in there with a guy that can really do anything to him. That's really what Ortiz is doing. And Ortiz has kind of been doing the last like 3 fights. And he got caught against Mean Machine. And Mean Machine, who was, I think, a more credible fighter than we give him credit for, and, had that competitive fight with Terrence Crawford. He got caught, right? So, you keep playing that aggressive game like that with guys at this level who are good, competent fighters, you're going to get caught once in a while. So it's maybe, I think he's honestly too aggressive. We're going to talk about Dalton Smith later, but Dalton Smith to me is too respectful of his opponent. I think Ortiz is kind of a little too disrespectful of his opponent. I'll admit that, but I don't think he'll keep that going when he's fighting guys at the highest level. I think this Ortiz he looked to me damn good in this performance. He knew exactly what he was facing. He knew this guy wasn't going to hurt him. He knew this guy wasn't going to rock him, wasn't going to put him in trouble in this fight. And I think Ortiz did exactly what he needed to do. I don't know how they match him going forward. I think it's going to need to start getting creative from Golden Boy because they're running out of names. Now, I don't think they're going to look to be throwing him in with like a Spence or a Crawford. They talk about it, but I don't think they really mean it. I think it's more of just like to hype Vergil Ortiz up. But I don't really see them doing that anytime soon. And he's got time on his side. He doesn't have to be there with those guys yet. I think the Boots is really, the opponent we'll be talking about for him, and where they'll go in their career. They'll eventually, they're probably most likely going to meet up. And I think that'll be the big fight, but it's just going to be what Golden Boy does when because they don't have no 147 really. If they're going to do Blair Flair or Rocha, which Rocha kind of makes sense. I think Rocha would make sense, but it's like where Vergil is, it's definitely a step backwards. It's not moving forward with Rocha, in my opinion. I think that it's a step backwards as far as name. Not saying Mckinson's all that, but I'm just saying like he's ready for the next step, and I don't think Rocha is that. So as far as name and ability, I just think Rocha is either. I would think even he's just like level to where he's at right now. I don't really know if Golden Boy has a choice. I think Conor Benn's an interesting choice. If Conor Benn could get one more notable name, look impressive in that fight. Conor Benn versus Vergil Ortiz is an all-action fight. And I think it'd be very interesting to see how that plays out. I would favor Ortiz, of course, pretty heavily in that fight. But I think that those are two names. And if you're matchroom, you might, want to find out what you have with Benn. You might be at the point where you're going to try to find out. He's kind of, Benn has kind of beaten at this level, and he's been successful at this level, and he's had the performances that you wanted at the level that he's at. But if you're going to move him up, like they're saying, fighting Eubanks, like that's a tough fight, especially moving him up to 154. If he wins that fight and goes into a Vergil Ortiz fight, I think that's very interesting. I think that's a big fight. I think it'll have a lot of buzz to it. On the undercard, we had Blair the Flair Cobbs versus Maurice Hooker in a fight that I thought Maurice Hooker was going to win. I thought it was a real risky matchup for Cobbs to go in this fight. Now, I did hear an interview before the fight, the weigh-in. Hooker misses weight, and then he does the interview, and he just sounds shaky in it. He sounds like he's not in a good place. I tweeted it out. I said he's not in a go. It doesn't seem like he's in a good place going into this fight. I understand that it's hard to, like I said, it's hard to judge what a pre-fight stuff means, right? A lot of times you'll see stuff for pre-fight, and people say, "Oh, this guy's he's struggling to make weight, or he sounds scared, or just all these things that we, might be playing tricks for ourselves, right? Overthinking it." But I just heard something from Hooker, and I was like, it just doesn't seem like he's mentally there in this fight. I said, I'm still going to go with Hooker. I'm not going to switch my pick because I feel like he's better than Cobbs. I feel like Cobbs coming off a tough loss. I think Hooker could really put his punches together and put it on Cobbs. But it wasn't to be, right? Mentally, when he started off the fight, he wasn't there. He physically wasn't there. He couldn't connect. His brain wasn't connected with his punches. And he just looked like he didn't want to be there early on. And Cobbs starts off early by dropping him. And then Cobbs drops him twice in the next round. And because Hooker's experience, and he's been doing this for so long, that he almost kind of works through the cobwebs by taking all those shots. Boxing is such a mental game. So he goes in there, he's not mentally prepared for this fight. And let me stop right here, though. It's not an excuse. Your mental game is not an excuse. Like I would talk Teofimo versus Kambosos. That's not an excuse. That's a part of the game. If you're stressed, everybody's going through something, right? That this is a part of the game. You have to show up with all the problems you have in real life, all the stresses, all the concerns, everything. You got to show up and perform. Everyone's going through stuff, right? Especially at this level, everybody's struggling for money. Everybody is trying to build something here to be successful. So it's not an excuse. It's a skill. To be mentally strong is a skill. To be able to show up with all the problems and everything you have on the outside is a skill. It's something that I think people could gain over time. And some people are born with it. But he shows up and he's not mentally there. And Cobbs gets him, drops him a few times early. He, like I said, gets hit with some shots. Decides like, hey, he gets a little pissed. Gets like, I want to get mine too. Kind of works through the cobwebs a little bit, right? And I've seen this in the gym where a guy shows up and he's first few rounds. You're like, what the hell is this? And you're just like, give him some time, let him warm up. He'll get in the rhythm of it. He kind of gets in the rhythm of it. He lands some good shots on Cobbs, and you can see Cobbs reacting to the shots. But because Hooker wasn't mentally right in the training camp, and he wasn't doing the things he needed to do, and he felt like mentally it hurt his physically. He couldn't go run, couldn't do the things he needed to do to get down in weight and to get really in shape for this fight. And Cobbs was in very good shape, right? Cobbs was in very good shape for this fight. Cobbs' legs were allowing him to get out of spots when it was getting a little bit dicey for him, right? Cobbs' legs were able to get him through the finish line on this fight. And Hooker, when he had a little bit of moments, building a little momentum, when he needed to up the pressure, he couldn't because he mentally, from the training camp, it affected the training camp all the way to the fight. He wasn't in shape. He couldn't get in shape for this fight the way he needed to. So when he did need to put his foot on the gas, like he did in this fight, he couldn't get it. It starts from training camp. These mental problems, all that, they start from training camp. And then it just starts domino affecting. Now, is Hooker done with his career? I think he's I don't know, done. There's so many opportunities in boxing, right? You got the Zone, ESPN, Showtime, you got Matchroom, Top Rank, Golden Boy, PBC, all these networks that are putting on shows every week, right? They're putting on so many fights. To me, to say, "Oh, Maurice Hooker, you're never going to see me," no, I don't think that's true. It's a very, you still see Chris Algieri on TV, right? You still see Van Heerden on TV. So you can't say, "Oh no, you're not going to see Maurice Hooker." No, I think you'll get another opportunity, but I think that someone's got to get a hold of him and be like, "Hey, we need to take a break. We need to let you get that itch again for boxing. We need to let you get mentally right. Let's take a break. Let's rest. Let's maybe take a year off." And I'm not talking about taking a year and then fighting right at the end of it. No. I'm talking about taking a year off, and then we start. Once that year's done, we start planning the future moves for you. I still think Hooker's an interesting fighter, and he's very entertaining. Like, even in this fight, he didn't even show up. He's extremely entertaining. That's the thing with Cobbs, too. It's like, Cobbs is never going to be an elite fighter, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing from him. He's just not. He just doesn't have that ability. But damn, is he entertaining. And I've said this from the Rocha fight. I was like, I thought the crowd did him dirty at the Rocha fight. I thought that they were all against him. I didn't understand it because this man was selling the show. He was putting all the effort in to make the show. And once again, he's never in a boring performance. He's just an entertaining guy. I want to see him in entertaining matchups. Let him win some entertainment matches. Let him win some fights that are more level at his level, right? Because why? What do you have against it? What do you have against being entertained in a competitive fight? And then if you get racks up a few wins, then you can go and see, really see at another level. But right now, I'm not rushing him. Now, I heard people say Conor Ben. I don't mind that fight. I think if you're going to fight one of the higher ranked guys, that's the guy probably to fight. It would be a style that really benefits him. It's two guys just really putting everything behind their punches. I think Conor Ben would win that fight. But like I said, if Cobb's going to be a top guy, it's going to be a guy like Conor Ben. Esparza looked very good in her fight too against Guzman. She won a unanimous decision. Very skilled, Esparza. I don't really think I've really paid attention to her fights. So this fight, Guzman was very skilled too. Just maybe undersized or just not at that level that Esparza was, and didn't have like the tools that Esparza had, didn't have the craft that Esparza had, but had some things. She did bring some things to the table and did have some will and want in the fight. But I'm interested in seeing Guzman again. I definitely want to see Esparza again. With Sinisi Estrada going to Top Rank, I don't know how that matches up. That fight kind of made a lot of sense for probably to happen next. So we shall see what they do. Maybe Top Rank Goldberg can still work that out where they make that fight. But I was impressed with that fight. I thought it was very entertaining, very good matchup. Let's talk about Dalton Smith versus Mckinson. Is it Mizon? Let's say Mckinson. Smith now, as a guy I've been very high on. Let me pull up this. Boom. I've been very high on Smith. I've been telling, just been basically shouting that, Smith to me was one of the top prospects in boxing. I even at one point think I announced he was the best prospect. I think last year I was saying he's the best prospect in boxing. I loved what I saw. There were some things that I've been noticing. He's a little bit too respectful of his opponents. I was saying that earlier. He's a little bit too respectful. He's not really applying, to me, what he can really be applying pressure. Really, he's levels above the competition right now that he's at that level, and he could really be forcing that on someone. He could really be creating opportunities and creating openings, but he's very respectful. He's very respectful of his opponent. He doesn't want to get hit. He doesn't want to get touched. He wants things to be perfect in there. To really bring him along, right, you're going to need him to get more looks. And it's going to have to be not just this European style. Because to me, he's fighting the same guy over and over again. And he has it figured out. But he needs to get some more looks. He needs to get a pressure guy. He needs a guy that's a slick boxer. He needs all the looks. I think he needs to come to the States. I really do. I think whether it's sparring or fights or, need to bring some guys from the States over there to fight him. He could be world level. He could be an absolute elite level fighter. It's all about development. And I was thinking that, Matchroom, they're serious, and they want to really enter the U.S. market, and they can enter it with they want to really develop their UK fighters, build a performance center in the States. That way they can send their fighters to the States, get the sparring, and, they have fighters here that are with Matchroom. They can even let in other camps. It doesn't matter, right? There's ways of, there's ways of running it. But I think they need a performance center where their fighters can go and get some sparring here in the States, because they need to get those different looks. I think that the one thing I see the European level is, yes, the heavyweights, you can get away with it because the European level heavyweights or Euro heavyweights are not too far from the American heavyweights, right? It's anything, they're in the lead. They have the better heavyweights. I would, you can make an argument. But in the other lower weight classes, to me, it's not close. Like, it's the American fighters are to me are always kind of better, or even just like the global fighters, like there's just the Dominican Republic, the Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, all those guys. But they're getting multiple looks. Like, they're getting, and to me, I feel like Dalton Smith just kind of fought the same guy over and over again. So it's just going to be how they develop him. But like I said, I'm very high on him. I think he could be the future. I think he could be an elite level fighter. But he can't just have the same look. So I'm very curious how his next fight looks. I'm curious who his next matchup is and what he looks like, because I think he needs a guy that's going to really put it on him, pressure, really guy that's going to really come forward and has tricks he hasn't seen before. I think he needs to see some looks like that. I thought it was a very good performance. I was impressed with it. Then we had Mick Conlon came back after his fight of the year performance. I thought right now leader in the clubhouse was fight of the year versus Leigh Wood in a loss in a fight that he was up and then gets knocked out the ring in the last round. And he came back on ESPN. It was like early. It was in Belfast, and he's fighting Mariaga. And Mariaga, who's a tough opponent for anyone, but look on the downside of his career, definitely. I was still very impressed with Colin's performance. I actually loved Colin's performance in this fight. I thought that he looked very skilled, he looked very sharp. Just coming off that knockout loss, you would think maybe there's diminishment. I think honestly he got better. I think he got more confident, and you could see him starting to put some stuff, sit on his punches a little more, land some power shots. I was just impressed with it. Like I said, I know Mariaga is not the same Mariaga that he once was, and even at that point, he was never like a world beater or anything like that. But Conlon just looked sharp to me. Just look how he was supposed to look versus a guy like that. He just looked levels above Mariaga, who he is. And I'm curious what they do with him going forward. He seemed like he sold pretty well in Belfast. He's a talented fighter, and I never watching him coming up every day. I was never really high on him, and I never really could imagine that he would turn into the fighter that he did. But he's there now, and I would love to see the Leigh Wood rematch. It seems like there's maybe a few things in the way, but there's plenty of good competition at 126 pounds, and I'm very curious what they do with him, but I just was really impressed with that Conlon performance. I thought it was a lot of talent this weekend. There was a lot of talent in boxing this weekend. There was a big hole left because Jake Paul didn't fight. I think you guys know how I feel about that. I think that was very disappointing. I think Rockman, tried to pull some stuff there, and they weren't having it. They weren't playing the game because Rockman didn't realize that, whatever he agreed to and all that, that was his opportunity. Okay, it wasn't going to get any better from that. And I think he allowed too much people to get in his head and say, well, try this. He should have said, I'm just going to go fight. I'm just going to go fight, and I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to end this hype train and build my own hype train. But with that hole left, we got some decent performances. If you're watching all these cards, like I can't blame you for not watching all these cards. I guess it's a lot of time. But that's what I do on Saturdays. I watch all the boxing fights. And I thought I saw some talent. I saw Conlon, I saw Dalton Smith, and I saw Vergil Ortiz. And I saw Blair Cobbs, who I think is a very entertaining fighter. And I think that he definitely has a spot in the sport, especially when you have to feel so many, like I said, there's so many cards and so many fights that these networks want. A guy like Cobbs is just, to me, perfect for this type of era. You can win some, lose some, no matter what. He's entertaining. You're going to see him more often. Thank you guys for listening. Follow, please, first of all, like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review if you're watching this on Spotify or Apple, wherever you have the podcast. Like I said, subscribe, follow all those good things. Follow me on Twitter as Raw Boxing. Follow me on TikTok as Raw Boxing. And thank you guys for listening. Peace out.